How you doing, man?
I'm wonderful.
Yeah, you are definitely blessed. How's the family?
Wonderful. Everybody's wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Any of your kids thinking about show business at this point?
Not at this point. Not
Yeah.
at this point. Every now and then somebody would, my son a couple of years ago was like, I want to do something, I want to act. I'm like, if you want to act, you'll want to act when you're 18. Wait till you get grown. Because it's a really short list of people that started acting when they were young that are still around. And if they're around, they're in therapy. With the exception of Ron Howard and Kurt Russell. Everybody else is pretty fucked up.
You start acting now, you're
you
guaranteed a cable special.
Yeah.
What happened to you? That's good advice you gave him. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you know what? You were right there on the cusp, but right there at 18. Well, your stand-up started when you were, what, 13, 14 years old?
15 when I started doing stand-up, but not in the public. I got known from Saturday Night Live before I did stand-up. They didn't know I did stand-up till 2-3 years of seeing me on SNL. Then I popped up on HBO.
Right.
But they didn't know me from stand-up when I was younger.
Yeah. And what drew you to stand-up comedy?
Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
I had a sense of humor, and I saw That Nigga's Crazy album.
Oh, yeah.
I heard that album. And back in 74 or 5 or 6, and that just became, I remember being in the basement and listening to that record and over again, because that's back when you're not supposed to listen to the dirty records.
Right.
You listen to the dirty records over and over again. I was like, wow, that's what I am. I want to be that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the album cover was funny when they had them, all tied up and they were.
Was it something I said?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That nigga's crazy. He's doing something like that.
Right. That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's something I said.
Something I said. Yeah, you're ready to burn him or something.
They were gonna burn him at the stake.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good, man. Any other influences for you?
Richard Pryor, Bill Cosby. When I was a kid, those were. And still as an adult, those are still two of my favorite comedians. Richard's my favorite comedian, and Bill Cosby's a great genius, his comic genius. So I grew up, looking at and admiring those two guys. And as I got older, I started getting into Carlin and other people. But when I was growing up, it was mostly those two guys.
Yeah. What do you think made them so special?
Richard is a brilliant, brilliant mime and just the genius of comedy. And Bill Cosby's a brilliant, genius storyteller.
Yeah.
Two total different sides of the spectrum, but both genius.
Yeah. Yeah. And Cosby's so prolific. I mean, just hours and hours and just simply sharing his life.
Yeah, just one of the great geniuses of the art form, Bill Cosby. Absolutely.
You remember one of your first comedy routines?
Yeah, but they're pretty atrocious. I came across a little thing, you write what you're gonna do, your bits, gonna go do this, and then I found this thing once, and one of my bits was called Eating Boogers. So it's like, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna do Ali, then I'm gonna do Muhammad Ali, then I'm gonna do it said Eating Boogers, and in parentheses, it said, a must. Like that was my killer bit, my eating booger bit.
I'm closing with that one.
I'm gonna close with Eating Boogers. It brings the house down.
All right, that was the first routine, about 14 or so. Yeah, there you go. Now, at what point did you realize I'm funny? I've got something here.
Well, there's two different revelations. I'm funny and I've got something that came at two different times.
Right.
I knew I was funny really, really early on. In my house, it's really funny. My mother, my brothers, my father, everybody has a sense of humor. And I was funny around the house. And then I became funny around my little group of friends. So I knew really early on that if I was trying to do something funny, I could get a reaction from it. And after I got on the stage and started doing stand-up when I was around 15, and I would see the reaction, that's when it was like, hey, there's something, I got something here.
Right. Yeah. And then you started to hone it.
I started to do it.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was honing it. I was doing it as much as possible.
You remember your first night on stage?
Yeah, I was at a place called Mr. Hicks' Place. The first place I did stand-up as a stand-up. First place I ever did stand-up, period, is the Roosevelt Youth Center when I'm 15. I remember that. But the first place where it was a grown-up, in front of grown-up people, I'm 15 as well, it was a bar called Mr. Hicks' Place. It's like they used to have gong show night. Remember they used to have the gong show?
Right.
And all the little bars was having gong show nights, all the local, talent was going up to gong, getting gonged at the bars and stuff. And you could win like $25. My brother was like, go do Stevie Wonder impression at the gong show night. You could win that money. So went down to Mr. Hicks' place. And back when I started, I did mostly impressions. I do like all voices, like Ali and Cosell. Back then, that's how long I've been doing stand-up. Ali was the champ when I started, okay? Ali was the champ, and Jimmy Carter was the president. It was. I had a Jimmy Carter impression, and Ali had all this really weird stuff.
Can you still do them?
I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna try. But I had all of this stuff that I would do. And so I went down to Mr. Hicks' place to do my Stevie Wonder impression and win that money. And that's how I started doing it regularly. Yeah. I lost, incidentally.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you. You didn't get the 25 bucks?
Then some dude came up. They had a live band there, and the guy won. If you got the time, he got the beer. Miller beer. Remember the Miller?
Yeah.
If you got the time,
right.
We got the beer.
Right.
Beer. Okay, this fucker gets on stage, right? And we're in Mr. Hicks' place, and he's singing, if you got the time, we got the, he's got a great voice, Miller beer. He doesn't say, he says, so if you got the time, Mr. Hicks has got the beer. And when he said Mr. Hicks and replaced Miller time with Mr. Hicks' name,
right.
The fucking roof caved in. It was like Mr. Hicks, yeah. There's no way you could follow that. And I lost.
You lost.
I lost to that guy.
Yeah.
And he didn't say Mr. Hicks has got the beer. He said Mr. Hicks have got the beer. He said, so if you got the time, Mr. Hicks have got the beer. Roof caves in. He gets the $25.
Mr. Hicks sells more beer.
Mr. Hicks sold a round of beer on every plate. Gave everybody a round of beer.
And you walked home.
I walked home.
And your brother's like, did you get the money?
Nah. What happened? Mr. Hicks have got the beer. That's what happened.
It's the little details.
It's the little details. You gotta learn how to split a verb if you want to win that money.
You never thought you're gonna lose to a guy singing about beer.
Yeah. Mr. Hicks.
Mr. Hicks.
But the good thing about that, there was a guy named Steve Love in the audience that night, and he owned a place called the Dolphins Cove down the road.
Right.
And he was like, how long can you stay on stage? And I said, I don't know. He said, I'll give you $1 for every minute you can stay on stage. So I started playing his place down the road, and that made me start writing more. It was like I only had 5 minutes. It was like every time I could get on this, if I get on the stage 15 minutes, I get $15.
Right.
So it's like I was writing, trying to come up with stuff. Because if you go do 5 minutes, 5 minutes seems like a really long time if you're just starting out doing stand-up.
It is a long time.
But yeah, but it ain't a lot of money afterwards. All that money and sweat and shit, you come off, you got $5. You're like, shit.
It's a lot of stress for $5. Yeah, barely paid for the bus fare.
No bus fare. We was walking to the gig back then.
Yeah?
Yeah, Dolphins Cove was on Nassau Road, about a mile and a half from my house. I used to walk to the gig.
Just walk on up there, get the $5.
You get the $5 and walk back.
When I come back in about 2 months, I'm gonna be up to 20 minutes.
Yeah, I never got to 20 minutes. I got as much as 15 minutes I got.
Is that right?
Back then, yeah. When I was 15, 16 years old, I had 15 minutes. And I would get $15.
Who'd you try your material on?
The audience. Just go try it out at the club.
Not at home? So you went straight to the stage?
Yeah, well, the mirror, from the mirror to the stage. Right.
Acting-wise, who were some of your influences?
I never had any acting influences. Only actor I ever tried to copy off of ever is, and you would never, now I'll tell you what it is, and now that I tell you, you'll be able to see it. The only actor I've ever tried to copy off of was Bruce Lee. And that's because when I did an action, the first movie I did where I was supposed to be mad, and I was supposed to do action, I had no reference. In 48 hours, it's like, okay, you're coming down this room and you're mad, or you're coming down this alley. It's a scene in 48 hours where I'm coming down the alley and it's all this neon and I'm supposed to be, intense, and I had no reference. I do my Bruce Lee impression, and I still do it to this day. When I'm mad on screen, if I pull a gun out, it may not look like Bruce Lee because I look nothing like him, but on the inside, it's all my face and stuff, all the shit I'm doing with my eyes. When I get mad, it's all my Bruce Lee impression.
All right, see, that's something no one knew.
It's a total, it's a great person to steal from because no one has ever watched a movie and said, he's doing Bruce Lee. He's doing Bruce Lee. Because he's a karate guy, and I'm like, not his karate, what he did with his eyes, how he could communicate with his eyes, and what he did with his face.
Right.
That's what I was trying to steal.
Yeah, you're a big fan of martial arts.
Big fan.
Yeah. And boxing fan.
Well, I'm the bigger fan of boxing. My dad boxed professionally, and I grew up around it. And whenever there's a fight, you know, I'm in front of the TV screen. I watch two bums fight though at 4 in the morning. You know, some channels, some cable channel, be two bums like this, and I'll watch it. I mean, he's kicking his ass, ain't he? I'll watch any fight.
Your favorite fight of all time?
But the all-time great fight of all time is Ali Frazier 1.
Okay.
Because it has, you know, for me, it's not just two guys getting in there fighting. It's all this other stuff that comes into play, you know. Just the science of boxing and the styles meeting up. But Muhammad Ali brought theater to it, so it's all this theater, like, you know, it's all this, it's a show. His presence and the whole, there's nothing like that sporting event.
Right.
That one, it just sticks out.
Yeah. Let's talk about Delirious.
Yeah.
Give me your thoughts about Delirious, you know, in terms of when you did it. And I remember when you first did, what year was it, 83?
83 or 82, way back.
Yeah. So Delirious.
82.
Early 80s.
Yeah, it's early 80s.
Yeah. So talk about Delirious.
Well, when I did Delirious, the only reference I had for that type of show was Richard's in concert, where he had done that, you know, all that stuff about in the woods and, you know,
having a
heart attack, all this brilliant stuff. That was my only reference. And back then, HBO was new. You know, was no HBO specials and all that stuff was new. Like when Delirious came out, it was this big controversial thing because of language and subject matter and all. If you look at it now, look at it compared to the stuff that they're doing now, it's like, but when it came out, it was like, oh, the language. The language. It's like when you ever watch when the Beatles, the footage of the Beatles when they came out, and the stuff that they were saying about the Beatles, it was wild rock and rollers, and you look at them now, they got suits on and ties, and it was all their long hair rockers. It's like these guys had ties on, bowing at the same time, you know. And it's a lot like that when I look at Delirious, and that it's like Delirious is harmless, but back then, you know, it was really controversial.
Yeah. What was controversial?
This language and subject matter talked about a bunch of stuff that hadn't been talked about and dealt with a bunch of things that, you know, things you never said. No one had ever said anything about Michael Jackson before. And no one had ever mentioned AIDS before. And no one had ever mentioned a bunch of different things that I was just saying. You know, so it was like, how can he say that in that language? There was a lot of that going on, you know.
Right. Some of your favorite routines on that?
On Delirious? My favorite routines. I think that classic bits. You know, lots of times the way I use it. Lots of times somebody sees a comedian, they'll be like, "Oh, I saw so and so's act. He was hysterical. I just saw it. So really, what did he talk about? What was? You know, I don't know. He did something about something." I say, "Well, give me just one of his bits, just one bit." And they can't give a bit. If you saw a good show, you could go, "Oh, they did that bit about that, and they did that bit about that, and they did a bit about that." And in Delirious, it has bits like ice cream bit stands out, the ice cream man, and the Goonie Goo Goo, all that stuff are going, the cookout, my father, and the singing thing, all the stuff with the singers and all that stuff kind of stands out.
Yeah, ice cream man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my one of my favorite little routines of mine. Because that's one that everybody can relate to. It's like no matter where you come from, if you grew up in America, you know. Yeah. You heard the ice cream man and you know what that routine is.
Yeah. And your father?
Yeah.
Getting a little drunk, acting up, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, what drove you to talk about those subjects at that time? AIDS, you know.
That was just the stuff that was going on. That's the stuff. AIDS was new. And people didn't know about it. It was the stuff that was in the paper. You know, a comedian talks about the stuff that's going on in the world around him, and that was the stuff that was in the world around me. You know?
Yeah. And you took a lot of pressure for that. You know,
oh, absolutely, yeah. But it was part of it. It was a different time. I remember they used to picket the show, and they used to do all kinds of stuff. But, you know.
They used to picket your show when you went on tour?
Oh, yeah, I've been picketed. Because, you know, I just talk about everything back when they weren't talking about anything. So if you said anything about gays, you had the gay people at your show. Like, no. No. You know, anything you said, anything about, they would pick it. You know, and then there was a thing back in the day where it was almost like if there was any type of controversy with anything, there was somebody would always pop up and be the spokesperson for it and be on the news talking about, no, we feel this is wrong, and it would just take it and go and for anything. I remember I did a movie once where I did Harlem Nights, and because we shot Harlem Nights in L.A., the people of Harlem was going, it is wrong, it is wrong. It was picketing me, you know. It's like, where's the movie? He should shoot it here. He should shoot it here. But you don't shoot movies in Harlem. You shoot them in Hollywood. No, no, no.
Now you're like, what, 20 years old, and people are on the news, you know, protesting you and about your routines, and what are you thinking at this point?
I'm thinking, I'm hot. I've got some heat, huh? they're tripping. I never paid any of that stuff any mind. It's always a small group of people or an individual or somebody that was, you know, I always felt like somebody wanted to be on TV or something anyway, so they would take in a shot. And it was part of it for what I was doing. It just came with it.
Right.
So I never, you know, I never felt any way about it. It was like, okay, this is what they're talking about now. Cool.
Right. You know, it's so funny. Everybody remembers that special, knows this special, and everybody always talks about it's their favorite special. Do you get that from people walking up to you and talking to you about it?
Yeah, you know, and I always say, oh, if someone tells me it's their favorite, I'd always go, did you ever see Richards in concert?
Right.
Because for me, that's the best. I mean, even if you're studying the art form, that's the best. Okay, you want to be a stand-up comic, you want to see what the art form is, you take Richards in concert, where he's got on that red shirt and the black pants and the gold shoes, the whole I Can't Breathe. I think the album was called Wanted.
Right.
But it's called In Concert, and that's the single greatest stand-up performance ever captured on film. It's like, okay, well, here's the ceiling. This is the best that it's ever been done. Then Mr. Cosby has a bunch of things, a bunch of albums and a couple of shows that they captured that you can put on to watch. But Richards in concert is the best. So when anybody comes up to me, oh, Delirious is the best I ever think, it's like, hey, this is the root of Delirious, you know. Right. You're looking at the leaves, look at the root of the tree.
All right, Kunta Kinte. Hold him up.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what was up with the red leather outfit?
You know, the red leather outfit happened as an accident. Whatever I was supposed to wear that night got messed up, and I went to the mall just to get something, and that suit, the pants don't even go with the jacket. It's like there's two different color reds. That's how much of a fuck I didn't care back then. I'm gonna go do my HBO special. I said, give me Crimson and Fire Engine. Ain't nobody gonna know. And put it on. Went out there, one is Crimson and one is Fire Engine.
Do you know for 2 decades people have been talking about that red leather outfit, and now it was nothing but an
one
accident?
was Crimson and one was Fire Engine. It was a last minute thing that happened.
And you shot it where, in D.C.?
We shot it at the Constitution Hall, yeah,
in D.C.?
Washington, yeah.
Yeah. So you went to the mall and said, I need an outfit.
I just went to the mall and was shopping. I was like, oh, this red leather jacket and these pants. And someone said, those pants are Crimson and the jacket is Fire Engine. I said, hey, man, get out of here. Ain't nobody gonna see that shit. And the rest is history.
The gloves and what was up with
the gloves was an afterthought. You know what I used to do was even worse than the gloves? I would put a ring on the outside of the gloves.
What was up with that?
I don't know. The scary thing is that they captured it on film. See, that's the paradox of getting started really young. Is that, you know, it's like, you know, it's like going through your old photo album and you see a yearbook, you know. It's like that. I have a lot of stuff that the yearbook photo stuff, all that shit is documented. You know, my crazy outfits and shit, all documented.
Red leather outfit.
Red leather outfit, leather gloves with a ring on the outside, put a ring on the outside, and a belt. You know, oh yeah, get in the mirror. Oh yeah, they ready now. Yeah, wait till they see this.
All of it just a fluke, and everybody's not. That's
but
hot.
it worked. It worked though
Yeah.
for the time. Yeah.
Everybody was like, "That's hot." Did you see Eddie? And everybody's walking around with red leather pants.
Yeah, for a minute they was all in leather.
Yeah.
Silly.
Yeah, and don't you think it was a little hot performing up there for about an hour and a half in red leather outfit?
But that's part of it though. You know, when you're getting the sweat on, you're sweating, you're telling jokes, and sweat is dripping. It's cool. It's cool. Back then, I used to have the chicks, girls used to be coming to the show and stuff. The comics didn't have girls at the show. Girls was at the show screaming and shit. I got a leather suit on. Yeah, tell them jokes, Eddie. Like I was singing. Ooh, that's funny, Eddie. Where's the party after the show? He was funny as a motherfucker.
Did you go to the after party in the red leather outfit?
Always. Always.
Now, do you miss doing stand-up?
Sometimes I get the little thing like, yeah, and then I'll go down to the clubs and I'll see what's going on. Then I'll be like, yeah, I got to do it again. Then it depends on when you catch me. One day I'm doing it again, and sometimes I never want to go touch it again.
Why?
Because there's something cool about where I left it. There's something cool about, I stopped doing stand-up when I was 26, 27 and didn't do it anymore. It's like at the height of it, to not do it. It's something, now it's cool, only cool because I have other things that I could do. I can make these movies and stuff. If there's something cool, it's something cool about not doing it. It'd be like if Jimi Hendrix didn't die, he just said, I'm not playing guitar anymore. And you'd be like, what? He said, yeah, I'm gonna go over here and dance. And you're like, hey, play the guitar. I said, no, I'm dancing. It's like, play your fucking guitar. Nope. It's kind of like that. It's like, do stand-up, motherfucker. That's what you are. Nope. Making these movies. Do stand-up. Nope, I'm Dr. Doolittle. Do stand-up. Nope, talking to this dog.
I'm talking to this dog.
Talking to this dog over here.
But once you're a stand-up, you're always a stand-up.
Always a stand-up.
So you're doing it somewhere.
It never went away.
Right.
It never went away.
So you're doing it for the kids, for the family, for the friends.
Yeah, and it's just who you are. I just never. First of all, there's so much work involved, especially if you haven't done stand-up in a while. It's not like you just jump out there and start flying again. You really, really, really started, level one again. You got to go all the way back to when you was 15. You got no joke. You don't know if your joke works. And you got to, I don't care how funny you are, or how much you got, or whatever. When you get your ass out after the initial, oh, Eddie, ooh, that's just making it worse because these people are expecting to see some shit. They go, yeah, Eddie, all right. That shit died down. You just on stage like this. So, where you from? You have no act, So all of that, just getting past that, and then getting a routine and just getting, trying to work all your life's experiences from the last 15, 20 years into something that makes sense. And it's just a whole lot of work that would have to go into. It's like a year and a half, 2 years of got to be in the clubs for a year before I could go on tour or do something, get my shit right. I had to be in the clubs 3-4 times a week, working my shit. And it's just so much work. It's like,
Right.
Whenever I look at the workload, it's like, oh, no, I'm not doing all of that shit.
Right, right. And also I remember, because you and I have known each other since we were about 19 years old.
When I first came to Hollywood, one of the first people I went to meet was Byron Allen, because he was on Real People, and we were the same age. I had read about him in Right On magazine. I was like, we the same age. He's a comedian too. You and the girl from that played in what was the TV show Fame?
Oh, Irene Cara.
No, not her. The TV show.
Oh.
It was a TV show, and then there was the other one that was what was her name?
You know what? You saw me on the Tonight Show, and then that was it. You were like, boom, that was it. You told me you'd see me on the Tonight Show. You and Keenan.
Yeah. And I was like, he's our age. And Christy McNichol. That's why. So don't ask me why. Christy McNichol. I was like, where is she? Back then I was like, hey, she's kind of cute, Christy. Christy McNichol.
Yeah. And the other thing I know, before you went on stage, you paid a lot of attention to your hairdo.
I did?
Yeah, your hair. Your hair had to be right.
I didn't know.
You didn't remember?
No, I shaved it all off, shaved it low.
Now you don't remember now. See, you were like losing it over your hair.
But I used to put a lot of chemicals and shit in my hair back then to make it straight.
Yeah.
So I had to keep it when you do that stuff, you're happy. This is before the Jerry curl and all that shit. I was doing it in the kitchen sink perms, and they're really high maintenance, a high maintenance hairstyle. You go like this and your hair, you just turn it.
You turn your head, juice went everywhere.
Shit spikes and shit dripping.
You could smell your hairdo.
No, it wasn't Jerry curl. It was grease.
Yeah.
It didn't smell like that Jerry curl stuff. It had a greasy, lots of grease.
Right. Yeah. We first met at the Comedy Store. I'll never forget this. You had come out to L.A. for a fitting for 48 Hours. And you were like, yeah, I'm out here for a fitting for this movie, 48 Hours. And he said, you know, I had to do a fitting for these Armani suits. Have you heard of this guy Armani?
Have you heard of this guy Armani?
Exactly. Yeah, we were like 19 years old.
You probably was like, no, Armani.
I don't know who it is, right? And then I'll never forget this. You said, you know, you said, the thing I love about the movie business, you said, I'm gonna keep this suit.
I did keep that suit.
I know you did. You told me that. You said, I am keeping this suit.
I keep the suits for I'll keep something for most of the films. You know?
Yeah.
If the suit's clothes fit, I take it. In fact, for years, that's how it was. My clothes was from the movies.
Right.
I had to stop doing it though.
Right.
Because, you know, some of that shit ain't fly. It's just,
and you said, and the other thing you said buying movies are great. You say they give you a per diem. He goes, now some of these other guys, they snort it. He goes, you said, I don't do drugs, I'm keeping the cash.
Yeah. Oh, those times have changed. No, I'm shooting up my per diem just like the rest of them.
Just shooting them up. And then you were excited because you had just picked up a Datsun 280ZX.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that right? And
Yeah.
you had put in a super speaker. You were trying to describe the sound system, but
Yeah.
basically you said, I'm thumping all the way down the street.
Yeah, I always have too many speakers in my car
Right.
when I was young.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm deaf now.
All right, so this is it. Delirious is it. We can't get you back on stage to crank out another hour, huh?
I can't say that I'm not going back. I told my mother that I might do it. And if I say I might to my mother, there's a possibility. She said, Ma, you know, I think I might do it.
Yeah.
There has to be something. There has to be a reason I can't just pop up out there doing stand-up again. Something has to be going on, or something, you know, has to happen. The right moment hasn't presented itself. Right now, it's a weirdness, and the whole scene is weird now.
Yeah, but
stand-ups.
But there's 20 years you haven't talked about with us. You know, there's 20 years.
I know.
Yeah, having kids. I mean,
So much, having kids, being married, all that stuff is a bunch of stuff, you know, just ups and downs in your career and your personal life. There's so many different areas to touch on. It's just, you know, looking at this big stack of experiences and going, now how do I get all of that into an hour and a half? And I know if I do it, it's going to be something special. It's just so much shit.
yeah, and
It's hard. That's like going in back. It's like being in the Army. That was like being on the front line. If you're doing stand-up, then you go to where you're a general, and they go, "Hey, go back on the front line again." It's like, what? It's like, I can sit in the office and do these movies. Go on the front line.
I don't think so. Yeah. And Mr. T, did you ever hear from Mr. T about your routine on him?
Never. Was he mad?
No, I don't know. I assume.
I pity the fool.
What about Michael Jackson?
I know Michael Jackson. I pity the fool. No, Michael Jackson was never upset. We became friends. We were friends. We were always cool with each other.
Yeah.
He never got upset.
Yeah.
His brother Jermaine once got mad, though.
Did he really?
Years ago. He said, I don't like them jokes you do about my brother. And I was like, are you kidding? He said, no, I'm serious. I was like, nigga, you better be joking. And that was the end of it. That was 20-something years ago. He was half joking, and I never was, how can I put it? My stuff about Michael was like, now you hear some stuff, they'll be talking about Michael and it'd be like really mean, just mean, crazy. I talked about how, you know, his voice, you know, and how he's not the most masculine singer and all that. Even Michael thought it was funny.
Right.
Michael told me that he watched that with his mom and he thought it was funny.
Right. But you were out there. Ralph Cramden.
Oh yeah, there was a rumor. In the club for years that Gleason wrote me a note because I used to do this routine about Norton. That Ralph wanted Norton to fuck him or something, you know. And there was a rumor in the clubs that Gleason heard the bit and he wrote me a note that said, "Murphy, stop, Gleason." I wish it was real.
All right, your worst night on stage.
My worst night on stage. My worst night on stage ever was at a little It was a little club called Gerald's back in the 70s. It was a little jazz club. And I was maybe 16, 17 years old. And I was supposed to do 2 sets. And I went up to the Gerald was sitting up at the bar, bald guy with his mustache, you know. And I was supposed to get $50. I said, hey, yeah, I'm the comedian. I'm Eddie Murphy. I'm from Long Island. He said, okay, brother, here's what you're going to do. When the band goes off, the first set, you're going to go up and you're going to do, you know, then they're going to take a break, and you come back, and you do the second set. That's all right, cool. So I'm sitting there, and the band's playing. All right, we're going to take a little break now. We're going to bring up a comedian from Roosevelt, Long Island. Come on, give it up, Mr. Eddie Murphy. Hey, I go up, and the worst set ever. Like, the biggest laugh I got was, you know, somebody in the back said, that's a huge laugh. It's horrible. You know how when you're bombing, you start trying to go faster and get your last bit? I was like, okay, I got to do eating boogers bit now. So I did eating boogers. I go back to eating boogers didn't work. You know, people was doing nothing was working, nothing when, and you start, when you're bombing on stage, I don't know if you've had this. Do you get real hot back here?
Oh, yeah.
You get it gets real, real hot in your neck and ear area. So my neck and ears are hot, and the audience is going, and you see, instead of getting laughs, I'm seeing people going like this. you know, you hear somebody in the back say, Mr. DJ, like put the music on. So I do my set, or what it's supposed to be my set, and I leave, right? And now the club is maybe a little bigger than this place. It's not like you have a dressing room. You have to bomb, then you have to go sit in the audience. So you sit in the audience after you bomb, you're like sitting there, and people are like mulling around. Like a guy comes, okay, that's the comedian. We're gonna take a little break, we be back in fit. I go sit down, and people are like, you know, hey, that motherfucker over there. Shit. And I'm 16, I'm traumatized in the club, you know. Then the band plays, I'm still sitting there. All right, we're gonna take a little break again. We're gonna bring back that comedian. You hear people, oh, no, hell no. Then I had to go up, and I did, because I was bombing, I did everything from my whole half hour. I did it all in the first 15 minutes. I had to go up and try to like make up stuff now. So I go up and I'm improvising stuff, worse than the first set. After the show, I go to the bar, and Gerald is sitting there, his legs is crossed, and I say, excuse me, I supposed to get $50? And he looked over his shoulder, he said, you better get the fuck out my face. And that's my worst night. That's my worst night. And I had to call my father, of all people, to come pick me up at like 2 in the morning. And he's like, you know, this comedy, you're a comedian. This comedy is bullshit. And I'm like, you know, driving home, they say, you a comedian, huh? I'm driving. Horrible. That was the worst night.
Couldn't get your $50.
Couldn't get my money. And Gerald, if you out there, you owe me, you fucker. There's some old ass man right now in Queens, the jazz club going, is that the same motherfucker?
All right, your best night.
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell which was my best set ever or which one was my most gratifying set. Because, you know, my best night might have been some night you don't even know about, some night in the club when all cylinders are working, you know.
Okay. Well, your best memory about Delirious then?
My best memory about Delirious is just how well it was received and that it was a surprise to people because people had seen me doing stand-up, they'd seen me doing Saturday Night Live and I'd done, I think, 48 hours by the time. When they saw Delirious, it came from left field. And I was 21 or 22 when I did it, but I had been doing stand-up, you know, almost 10 years, so I pretty much had it polished, so it was like catching them with a punch they didn't even expect. And then I had on that silly suit, too. It really took them out. And what's cool about it is a lot of young comedians, they come up and they'll, you know, cite Delirious comics. And, oh, yeah, that.
Okay.
Delirious is a moment in time, and it's a really unique piece. It's very funny. If you watch it, you'll see where a bunch of shit you see that came out in the 90s and a lot of stuff you see now. Delirious is one of the most imitated routine, performances. You see a lot of stuff that comedians just shamelessly just go and twist it a little bit and take it a little stuff. And I guess it's flattering, you know, that they'll go and do that. But you see where a lot of the stuff that you think is funny, you see where a lot of it came from.